So I've been involved in small groups for a while, and involved in small group leadership for a while. But I always kind of got hung up on the term leader. I was good at the facilitation and the administration of it, but as I looked more and more about what I thought a small group leader was, I discovered that it was the teaching aspect that kind of I was used as an excuse to have a hang-up for it. And I was lucky. Our small group is filled with lovely, mature, believing Christians, any one of which could be an effective small group leader. And so my excuse was safe for a while, that I could sort of stand behind that excuse of, well, I'm not a good teacher, I don't think it's part of my gifts, and so, I'm just not going to dive in more. So about 2 years ago, I started feeling really convicted about sort of my stance on being a small group leader. And with some gentle encouragement from Beth, I unpacked that part that, being a leader doesn't really have to do a lot about teaching. It can be about so many other things. So at that same time, about 2 years ago, a couple started attending Oakwood. And I don't know if you know them, but you know people like them, where they come to Oakwood and they are just immediately absorbed into the sponge that we are in terms of welcoming them and showing and sharing with them the love of Jesus. And we were doing CBE at the time, which was even better. And that's how they got connected to our small group. And I love the CBE format because it's sharing, well, what do you think about Scripture? And what do you think about Scripture? And what do you think? And it's a chance to go deep. It's the chance to ask questions in a safe place. And it's a chance to encourage one another. And I could see that happening. And that always happens when we go through CBE each year. So this new couple had started coming to our small group, and we were growing close as a group all together. And about 4 or 5 months later, he had to have surgery, cancer surgery, that was pretty serious. And I was, kind of thinking, well, maybe I ought to go, see him in the hospital and do a hospital visit, duh. And so I went and saw him. And I ministered to him, and what I didn't realize is that he was ministering to me. And the only way I can describe it was worship. Like when you hear a great sermon from Marcus or Daryl, and you can just resonate with it, or when you're singing a song and you can just resonate. It's not one person or another. It's just you're both, in that experience of worship. And I realized that pastoral care is a significant part for me on what taking small group leadership is, to the next step. And so I discovered or intended to then intentionally be more intentional about being pastoral and look for opportunities. And so I would, invite people to go deep and invite people. And I think Sarah's going to go over the small group covenant later on. And I just love that because it's trust. What you say stays in the room and everybody trusts each other. But then everyone is willing to go deep from that standpoint. And so I was surprised at how much I was being ministered to as I was trying to be pastoral to this person who in turn was being pastoral to me. Coming back. And so we've done that I've tried to do that intentionally for a couple of years now. Our group, by God's grace, doubled in size over this last year when we did CBE. But we've been able to keep that same amount of trust and accountability and service and care for each other and encouragement for each other. And so by God's grace, our intimacy grows with each other. And, pastoral care with one another is just another way of doing discipleship with one another.